League of Legends is a very dynamic game and is subject to change at any one time. Things such as items, champions, and general game balance can all be adjusted by Riot to make the game more enjoyable for the majority of players. So please be aware, this guide may not still be applicable depending on the times. Welcome to Champion Crash Course featuring Amumu, the sad mummy.
I thought you'd never pick me.
Amumu is a tanky little fella who is adept at hugging the opposing team members and keeping them very still so they can cheer him up a little bit. His abilities scale very well with AP, and it's not uncommon to build either full AP or have some AP items within the build. However, he is better suited to a more tanky and sustained fighting style due to how his abilities function. It's recommended that he be played in the jungle, as his clear speed is really fast on all of the camps due to his great area of effect abilities. He can be played in lane, but it's incredibly hard, especially in the early stages. Amumu uses mana as his resource, and in the early game it can be quite tricky to keep a handle on it. However, since you'll most likely be in the jungle, then getting blue buff for yourself to start wouldn't be too big of a deal. Make sure your blue buff is defended well, as it can be very hard to jungle without that thing. Amumu currently costs 1350 IP, or 585 RP, which to me is ridiculously OP. For someone this good, I mean, Amumu's potential is amazing, but we'll get into that soon enough. Amumu has 8 skins, including his classic skin. Sadly, a few of them are unavailable, however the second best skin for him is available, so that is alright. His skins are Pharaoh Amumu, which is unavailable, Vancouver Amumu, which is also unavailable, Emumu, which will cost you 520 RP. The best skin is Regifted Amumu, which is sadly no longer available. Almost Prom King Amumu, which works well if you have a friend with the Prom Queen Annie skin. This will cost you 520 RP. The second best skin being Little Knight Amumu, which will cost you 750 RP. And the final skin, Sad Robot Amumu, which will cost you 1350 RP. Now, Sad Robot Amumu does have tons of cool little things about him, but Little Knight Amumu is a freaking knight, and it's cheaper than the robot one. I like the little tuft on the top of his head. That pleases me. He isn't a particularly popular champion, and I'm not really too sure why. As I'll be showing you in this guide, he can provide tons of support and turnaround potential for your team. So I think more people need to pick Amumu. His win rate is above average as well, so the people that do pick him tend to win. Amumu's listed difficulty is a 4, which I slightly agree with. On the one hand, he's like in the enemy team almost all the time and he's always infinitely useful. However, he does rely on his abilities to be landed properly, and this can be quite hard. But overall, I'd say he's about a 4 or a 6, depending on your prior knowledge or general skill shot abilities. If you're looking to fit Amumu into a team composition, then he actually fits in with almost anyone, as he is the one who provides the CC and he is the playmaker. Just try not to pick anyone who has like a knockback or something. That can stop Amumu from being effective in almost every way, and he'll probably get even more pissed off. For summoner spells, I'd suggest Ignite and Flash if you're in a lane, Smite if you're in the jungle obviously, and sometimes Teleport can be good for that surprise motherfucker sneak attack from the back. For runes, you should usually go for a standard Magic Pen Marks for Mad Deeps, Armor Seals, Magic Resist Glyphs, and AP Quints. You could also go for Movement Speed Quints if you feel that Amumu is a little too slow for your liking. For masteries, you should go for a 9-21-0, taking some additional AP in the offensive tree, and focusing on more tankier stats in the defensive tree. Even if you're going to go full on AP, it's still worth to go this route as his early game prowess is pretty bad. Amumu's passive is Cursed Touch, or Cursed depending on how you want to say it. Amumu's basic attacks reduce the target's magic resist by 15 at level 1, 20 at level 7, and 25 at level 13 for 3 seconds. However, the debuff can be reapplied by hitting the enemy again. This can be very powerful early on when people don't have much resistance, so ganking mid lane as soon as possible is usually a great idea because of this passive. His Q is Bandage Toss. Amumu latches onto the enemy target and stuns them for 1 second. He will also pull himself towards them and deal 80, 130, 180, 230 and 280 magic damage plus 70% of current ability power. This will also cost 80, 90, 100, 110 and 120 mana, and its cooldown is 16, 14, 12, 10 and 8 at ranks 1 through 5. This can be used on jungle monsters too, so it can be used to get to your camps easier or to make a fancy escape. Spell Shields and Morgana's Black Shield can fully block this ability, however Amumu will still fly towards the target. You should max this last, as it doesn't really get that much better with level, and it remains good throughout all of the game. The lowest possible cooldown for this spell is 4.8 seconds. His W is Despair. Amumu starts to cry and deals 8, 12, 16, 20 and 24 magic damage in an area. Additionally, the enemy will be dealt more damage equal to 1.5, 1.8, 2.1, 2.4 and 2.7% of their maximum health. This gains an extra 1% for every 100 AP you have. This ability will cost 8 mana per second at all ranks. This makes it tough to sustain at early levels, but not so much as a hindrance in the late game. This spell is toggled and has a 1 second cooldown at all ranks. You should max this second, as you'll want to deal that extra damage to both minions and champions, but leveling it second allows for more theoretical damage, as the more levels and items your enemies get, the more health they will have, so the more damage you'll deal. The lowest possible cooldown for this spell is 0.6 seconds. His E is Tantrum. Amumu passively takes less physical damage by 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. Actively, Amumu does a little headbutt type thing and swirls around, and deals 75, 100, 125, 150 and 175 magic damage, plus 50% of total ability power. This will cost 35 mana at all ranks, and its cooldown is 10, 9, 8, 7 and 6 seconds. Additionally, any auto attacks that hit Amumu will reduce the cooldown of this spell by 0.5 seconds. This works on minions, monsters and even tower shots, making it come back extremely quick, especially when stuck in a large minion wave or in a big team fight. You should max this first, as to take less damage in the early stages and to clear camps even quicker. The lowest possible cooldown for this spell is 3.6 seconds. Amumu's ultimate is Curse of the Sad Mummy. Amumu unleashes a huge AoE spell that entangles all enemies within it, rendering them unable to attack or move for the next 2 seconds. This spell will also deal 150, 250 and 350 magic damage, plus 80% of current ability power. This will cost 100, 150 and 200 mana, and its cooldown is 150, 130 and 110 seconds at ranks 1 through 3. And for those who like to know the timers in minutes rather than just seconds, the times would be 2 minutes and 30 seconds at rank 1, 2 minutes and 10 seconds at rank 2, and 1 minute and 50 seconds at rank 3. This spell is amazing when used on multiple enemies, and is best suited to be used in teamfights. However, don't be too shy about using it on 1 or 2 people, especially if your team have the capability to follow up. Keep in mind this spell can be fully blocked by Spell Shields and Morgana's Black Shield, so make sure they're down before the fight erupts. The lowest possible cooldown for this spell is 66 seconds, or 1 minute and 6 seconds. In my eyes, Amumu can be built in 2 ways, but both of them centre around being both survivable and damaging at the same time. If you're going to go jungle, which is the most preferred role for Amumu, then you'll want to go for the machete, pots and a trinket ward. If you decide to lane like an absolute badman, then you can either go Doran's Ring or Doran's Shield depending on the matchup. For the booties, I would suggest either Merc Treads or Ninja Tabby depending on your enemies. Heavy AP with lots of CC, go Merc Treads. Heavy AD, you go Ninja Tabby. I suppose if you wanted to go full AP, then Sorc Shoes could serve you well enough. Next, you'll want to upgrade that machete into a Spectral Wraith if you want to have more damage. Or you could go into an Ancient Golem. The new Ancient Golem is amazing on Amumu due to his already quick clear speed, and the bonus health is fantastic for a tankier Amumu. I believe that a Tear of the Goddess is core on Amumu. His early game mana problems are quickly negated by blue buff, however once it gets into the later stages, you won't be wielding that blue buff very often, so a Tear can help in that situation. Plus Amumu's Tears can constantly charge it, so you'll have it fully stacked in no time. An Abyssal Scepter is fantastic on Amumu, as you'll want to be on top of the enemy almost all the time, so reducing their magic resist so your abilities have more hugging power is perfect. It can be beneficial to pick up a Rylai's Crystal Scepter. Health and ability power plus all of his abilities together will slow enemies down, allowing you to initiate a conversation with the enemy whilst you're running alongside them, and maybe make some more friends. You could also pick up a Frozen Heart just because it literally buffs Amumu in so many ways. Also, don't forget to upgrade that tier at the end. Strangely enough, an Archangel Staff, when it upgrades into a Seraph's Embrace, can give super mega ability power. It is such a huge power spike. Now, you could obviously go full AP on Amumu. This does, however, leave you very susceptible to dying alone and with no friends. So even if you do play AP, make sure you get some resistances in there. Being a melee burster can be very hard if you just get blown up straight away. Some alternative items to build would be a Burny Face, aka a Leandri's Torment, as those constant tears will turn into acid and burn your foes as you drench them. And Athenes can be useful if you decide not to go for a tier, or do have a tier anyway, or just want super cooldown reduction and great mana regen. It's a personal choice, however. Azonia's Hourglass can be very fun as you can actually golden pose as you jump into the enemy team. However, you won't get any damage done, so it's purely for those style points. I suppose you could go for a Sunfire Cape as well, as if you're in the middle of the enemy team you'll always be burning them down, and that is pretty nice. I play Amumu as a mid laner. Amumu's early game is fairly weak, so don't try and be a hero early on and try to stick to playing more defensive. However, if a jungler does gank your lane, you have some very easy gap closing with your Q and can provide pretty good upfront burst damage. Once you hit level 6, you can either take your lane opponent out or roam around and try and pick up some kills. I'd recommend you go bot lane for your kills, as top lane only has one guy in it, whereas bot lane has two, and that's like one more guy than top lane has, so there's more people for you to befriend. Getting a good ultimate off is crucial for Amumu. Sometimes a Q isn't enough for your ult to land on multiple people, so you should consider flashing into the enemy team or just poddle forward a little bit just to get that extra distance. Most people won't stick together in a nice little group for you to just ult them and kill them all, so remember to position yourself well. Amumu can be a sneaky little fella in the late game, as he can just hide with his team in a little area and then pop out of nowhere and burst the enemy down practically on his own in some cases. Also, you should try and keep your tiers on at all times, especially when fighting. Remember, percent damage will always do damage in percentages. Amumu thrives in team fights or in fights where he's against a champion who has no escape tools. However, it can be hard to fight people one-on-one sometimes, so try not to go soloing people, you dingus. Amumu's Q is his engage tool. Try to get between minions or use someone who has a displacement against him if he wants to use it. Amumu will have an extremely tough time if you take his blue buff in the early game, so if he's on the enemy team, consider not actually taking the blue buff away from him, but hiding in the Wraith bush for when he comes to do his red, as he'll be very low in health and only have 2 abilities to use. This can usually result in the kill depending on who you're playing, but if not, it reduces the usage on the blue buff, and you could also take his red in return, making it harder for him to gank in almost every stage of the game. When Amumu has his ult up, he will usually play a lot differently. He'll be running around and looking for a Q on your team. If he does this, then you'll want your team to spread out a little bit into different sections of the map. But don't run too far away in case the enemy engage on you. A Banshee's Veil is a brilliant thing to pick up when you're against Amumu. This can prevent his ult from landing if you're in the area, and it can also prevent his Q from stunning you. This item is invaluable when you're in a team fight against Amumu. You could also go for a QSS, aka Quicksilver Sash, as that can cleanse Amumu's ultimate right away, and allow you to either disengage or fight back. Amumu counters people who aren't very mobile or have a channeled spell. There are a lot of champions who fit this profile, so I can't really list them all, but you know who they are, especially if they're right in front of you in champion select. Keep in mind, however, that to stop a channeled spell, you will want to use your Q to stun them out of it, as Amumu's ultimate isn't actually considered a stun, so it can't cancel a channeled spell. Strong duelists and people who can displace Amumu are the people you want to prevent Amumu from being effective. So the counter crown goes to Lee Sin. Lee Sin can counter jungle Amumu early on and will always beat Amumu in a straight 1v1 fight. Plus, if Amumu manages to get into your team, then Lee Sin can simply kick him away. This can sometimes even waste Amumu's ult, since Lee can kick him whilst Amumu is casting his ultimate, thus wasting the engage. If you have some moderate experience with Lee Sin, then he's the perfect choice when against an Amumu. I know I've mentioned this previously, but it's a really good thing to know. Amumu's Q can pull you to both enemy minions and neutral monsters. So if you get trapped, you can easily Q away, or you can Q to your jungle camps if you don't want to walk around. When you're in a herd of minions, Amumu's E will come back pretty much instantaneously, making it super easy to just keep spamming it out and clearing the wave out. This can also be used in a team fight if people decide to keep hitting you. Amumu's laugh is very spammable and can be incredibly annoying to a lot of the enemies. You should try and take advantage of this. Use it as psychological warfare. I know it's a dick move, but I do it all the time and it is absolutely hilarious. Amumu's E makes him tankier as it ranks up, so he can be surprisingly tanky in the mid game even if he doesn't have that much resistance. It's very deceptive. On that same subject, tower shots also decrease the cooldown of Tantrum, making tower dives quite beneficial. I know I mentioned that previously, but you know, nice thing to know. Sadly, Amumu doesn't really have anything else that makes him interesting, which is quite fitting really. As always though guys, I like to give the base stats for everyone, as for some people this information could be quite useful. However, these stats aren't static and can be changed as and when, but they never really get changed too drastically. So at level 1, Amumu's stats will be 556 health, scaling at 84 per level, 8 health regen per 5, scaling at 0.85 per level, 51 attack damage, scaling at 3.8 per level, 0.64 attack speed, scaling at 2.18% per level, 335 movement speed, 260 mana, scaling at 40 per level, 7 mana regen per 5, scaling at 0.525 per level, 25 armor, scaling at 3.3 per level, and 31 magic resist, scaling at 1.25 per level. So at level 18 his stats will be 1984 health, 23 health regen per 5, 115 attack damage, 0.87 attack speed, 935 mana, 16 mana regen per 5, 81 armor, and 53 magic resist. As always though guys, I'd highly recommend you practice with Amumu in normal games or in custom games with your friends. He can make a huge impact on games when you know how to play him effectively. Practice makes perfect, as I could just tell you exactly what to do and what to build, but you might like to play him in a different way. It's really all down to experience in the end. But I hope this guide has steered you in the right direction when it comes to playing as or against Amumu. If this has helped you in any way, then please consider giving this video a like. If you have anything else you'd like to add, or just want to drop some knowledge on fools, then feel free to leave that stuff in the comments. I'd appreciate it, and I'm sure others would too. You could also share this video with your friends, or share it with people who you think are total noobs. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace!